Welcome to Electric Evolution with Liz Allan. This podcast explores the transition to net zero and the systems driving real change in how we move, live and power our world. Every week I sit down with the people leading that change, those offering insight, innovation and impact in many ways people don't fully see until they hear their stories. If you're ready for real conversations that inspire action and drive change, please like this video, subscribe to the channel and join us on this journey, and let's cut through the noise and build a better future together. Hi everyone and welcome back to another episode of Electric Evolution. Today I've got an absolutely, well, she's gorgeous anyway, is the woman that I'm talking to. She's absolutely gorgeous. So if you're not watching this on YouTube, then please do. Abbey Graham. She is the co-founder and director and head of EV charging at EVEREC Recruitment. You are gorgeous. I've got to say this, Abbey.
Thank you. What an intro. That was great. It's such a pleasure to be here. I'm an avid listener and so pleased. Thank you for having me.
It's just lovely. And we've been talking for a long time, haven't we, before we even started recording. It's a bit like there's been a few situations like this, but hopefully people kind of realise when I've been talking to somebody for a long time, because it just flows, and that's the whole point.
Definitely. No, I think we could talk forever, so I'm really excited to it.
So I'm going to start off by just kind of giving a little bit of background to when I first saw you, when I met you, and it was at so Jill Noel ran the Global Women in EV Day up in London in February, and you were on one of the panels, and the episode before this is Lois Loxley. She was on a panel as well, but there were some fantastic women on these panels. The ones that stood out to me the most, I will say this, are you and Lois, because you're both young women. You've been in the sector a while, but it was your attitude and the way that you're putting things forward to the panel, to everybody in the audience. You were brilliant. So I want to say, for a start off, thank you, because it was so refreshing to kind of hear your input, even just from a recruitment point of view, but also as a woman, a young woman in kind of coming into this. And was it your first panel?
Yeah, I have done a panel, but it was during more of like the video. So there wasn't actually a crowd there, if you know what I mean. So first panel in front of 200 people. So thank you for that. That means a lot. I think we need confidence and being able to be pushed to do things like that, and support from the industry to do that is everything, I think.
So, and we talked about this before, didn't we? Before we started recording, that yes, I've had a few recruiters on the podcast, but there's something, and I'm not really blowing smoke up your ass. I'm really not. There's something special about you, and we'll talk about your USP as we go through, because you've got a personal USP as well as a business USP. I think it's not just EVEREC, but let's start right at the beginning of what brought you into this sector, into recruitment, because I was so interested to see your degree was in psychology. We have talked about this before recording, but just take me through a little bit about what got you to where you are now.
Yes, definitely. So I actually come from quite a small steelworking town in Newcastle, so very humble beginnings, shall we say. And parents always just pushed me to get away, do more, grow your wings and see more of the world, I suppose. So I went 2 hours away to York University. And before that, since I was about 16, I've always worked in pubs, bars, restaurants, and I think that if you can do anything for your children or for grow your self-confidence, I suppose, or just get a sense of the world, it's to work in bars and restaurants and retail, because it's eye-opening. So that's kind of where it all started off. I went to uni and did psychology, and I always knew I wanted to do something with people, but I'm quite a deep person in terms of I wear my heart on my sleeve, and things really affect me. People's emotions affect me, and to think some of my friends went into, depression and going down routes where, the really challenging situations I don't think was for me. I don't think I could have handled it. But I always wanted to do something with psychology and with people and get such a joy out of different people's perspectives and being able to visualize how they see the world, I suppose. So from psychology, there was a graduate scheme that came up, which was with Enterprise Rent-A-Car, which is kind of a detour, but they actually came personally into the psychology classroom because they must have thought people with psychology had seen that they had good skill sets in order to be in that kind of environment. And I didn't really know what I wanted to do. Like I say, it was either anxiety, depression, and kind of that route that we were taught in the psychology, and that wasn't for me. So I thought, yeah, let's give it a go. I joined the Graduate Enterprise scheme in York, and wow, that was a whirlwind. We were working 70-hour weeks.
Oh God, blimey. Okay.
One week you'd get one day off on a weekend, the other one you wouldn't. So you'd literally be working like 8 days back to back sometimes. And I was literally 21, driving Teslas, driving all of these posh Jaguar EVs, and just living my best life, which is hilarious because I actually can't rent a car now in Enterprise because I'm not 30, but for a 21-year-old, if you work there, you can.
That's funny.
Yeah, which is really funny. So that's kind of like where my love of EV started, I suppose, because you had anyone from, young people coming into the business just so excited to be able to drive an EV and making sure that they were on a waiting list for 2 weeks so they could actually pick one up and have one, all the way through to gentlemen or older people that actually had got put in EVs and would just pass themselves because they were like, what if I get stuck somewhere? What if this happens? And actually a few times I actually had to go and pick people up from the side of the road that had completely ran out of charge and bring them back to the office. And so I've seen both elements of it in terms of just people's passion for it, but then people's fear of it, and also everywhere in between of where there needed to be things done. Things needed to be upgraded, things needed to be supported. But I was just so excited about it. But Enterprise also told you all of the sales and the business development and the people skills. I feel like I grew up about 5 years just in that 1 year. I did that for about a year and a half, 2 years. And then just wanted to go and find myself, as people do. So I decided to move to Australia.
You didn't go far then.
Oh, yeah, York wasn't far enough, so I decided to get the other side of the world, much to my parents' dismay. I'm an only child, and I think that, that's was always a tough point from growing up. So, Australia was meant to be this thing where you went out there and travelled and seen the world and experienced all these things. I got there in the November, and then, of course, in the March, it was lockdown. So I was in Melbourne, stuck on like the 33rd floor of this flat apartment with completely people I had no idea who they were because I was like renting a room and sharing a flat and things. And actually ended up spending the whole 2 years doing farm work basically. So I was doing everything from picking strawberries in a little cart that looked like Fred Flintstone, where your legs went like this and you picked strawberries from either side. Then wearing hairnets and completely like laboratory dresses basically, because I was a tomato factory where they made sun-dried tomatoes. So the precision of it, you had to like turn the tomato this way up and make sure it was perfect for them going through the machine. I've done all sorts, and it's sobering. You don't realise how much time you get to think in those moments. From that I just did a lot of reflecting and really decided what I wanted to do and what really mattered to me, I think. So came back from there and realised within this time as well, I'd also managed a cleaning company while I was in Australia right at the start.
Did you? Oh my God.
Yeah, Rogue also, but that was a startup, and that was a business where the founder and his cleaners and me essentially were just running the business, and I got such a love for startup life, just the infatuation of you growing something that's yours, that's your baby, and nothing. It's just such a wholesome thing, although very stressful, but I just got such a love for that. So came back and established I wanted to work with people. I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to work somewhere where there was a lot of one-on-one and I could actually read people and understand perspectives. I wanted to work with renewables and EV, and I wanted to have my own business. Can't all get them at once when you've never done anything related to it before. So I decided to move to Manchester, and went to a renewables company, and I just said I want to set up an EV charging desk. They said, have you ever done EV before? I said, no. Have you ever done recruitment before? No. They were like, all right, you can start on Tuesday. I was like, champion.
You do.
Yeah, as you do. And I just had such a belief that that was just what I'd had a lot of time to think. So I just had such a belief that that's what I wanted to do. And yeah, I got on all right for the first year. Just doing bits here and there, but it wasn't like you see some people coming in, they're just successful straight away. That it wasn't like that for me. It was a journey through that year. I didn't see success straight away. My business partner, joined maybe 12 months into my journey there, and George had been doing it for about 5 years at that point, and he happened to be an EV specialist, so he does all of the actual building of the cars, and the recruitment in that sense. So the more the technical, the engineering, the actual build of the vehicle, where mine was EV charging and the infrastructure. So we started working really closely together, and there was a bit of friction in the business. Me and George are very, you haven't met George, but we wear our heart on our sleeve. There's no, you see sharky recruiters, and when me and George tell people we're recruiters, I don't think people believe us some of the time, because we're almost too nice to be them. And we had exactly the same ethos, just that recruitment had a bad name and we wanted to change that, I suppose. So he was just like, do you want to go and set up on our own? And I thought, you're mental, but yeah, absolutely, let's go and do it. So all self-funded. We sat in a box in Manchester. We bought 2 laptops, 2 keyboards, and rented an office space in Manchester with no windows, just one desk that we sat on the opposite end.
Oh my word.
And we literally didn't look up for about 12 months. Blood, sweat, tears, and many sleepless nights later, we're now a team of 5 in the office. And very grateful to all of the loyal people that have stood by us. So that's...
Love that. Please tell me you've got a window now.
Got a window. We actually measure success based on windows. We're up to 3 windows now. So
wow.
Getting on well.
Wow. Are you outside one room as well? You still...
Yeah, well, outside the one room has kind of grown and expanded. We're still in the same office building, and we've actually gone to 5 different offices now. So one with a window, one with 2 windows, and it's really nice space. So grateful that it all worked out.
I love that story. Oh my God, I was going to ask you, when was the moment that you actually thought I'll build something of my own, but you've just explained it, and kind of George kind of coming and asking you, how long did it take you to kind of set the business up? As in deciding, he's a specialist. This is what you do, because it's not just those things now, is it? There's a lot more to EVEREC than you've just said there. Do you want to explain a little bit about what the other things that you do?
Yeah, definitely. So in terms of, I guess, how we decided what we were going to actually do as a company, it was very simple. We are very different people. We are polar opposites. So if I'm white, he's black, it's completely separate in terms of how we speak, manage things. He's numbers. He is very in detail focused. I am the opposite to that. I'm like the people side of it. I'm the vision side of it. He looks outwards, I always say, and I look down. Our roles just very happily just got split into, he does what he's good at, I do what I'm good at. We're both, and always will be, 360 billers, which means we'll always have our own clients and always do our own work alongside managing the team. So I think that's really important to us to, lead from the front and show them that we're making as much effort, and for them to learn off us ultimately. So that's predominantly still, the job through and through. All my clients that I work with, it's me that they work with. It's not any of my employees or the business or anything like that. There's support from there, but we are the front and face of EVEREC, and that's the way it will always be. And then in terms of how it's kind of diversified, It originally was, I was in the EV charging space and George was in the EV space. But as things have developed, it's all been really organic. So it's been like word of mouth and referrals to the point we've then just ventured into kind of like battery storage, wind, solar, renewables, because people have come to us and asked us to. And we become a specialist by not trying to put ourselves in those places, but by demand, I suppose. And that's the way that we've grown. So yeah, I wouldn't say we just say we're a specialist in this and this. I'm a specialist of the company I work for. So any of my clients, I could tell you their history. I would be able to sell their business as well as I'd be able to sell my own, purely because I know the people within them so well, and I know what their pitch is, and I know the heart of it. So yeah, we're now, like I say, a team of five. We've got a battery and storage, solar specialist, wind, EV charging, and we do a lot in kind of Formula E and drones as well. And we do UK, Europe, US, and Canada. So yeah, pretty big scope, but all just organically through demand rather than trying to guess what people need.
But I also like what you said to me before we started recording, which was about the different kind of roles that you're filling, because you're not just saying you're at one level or another, are you? You
No,
know, you're filling roles across a whole business.
definitely, yeah. I think that is our pitch as well. I suppose our ethos is if we partner together, it's not a choice of we'll just do the mid-level or the exec level roles because that's where the most money is or that's where the biggest fee is. I truly believe that if you want our help, we should give you the same level of help, whether that is an admin assistant, a technician, all the way through to, you know, legal, marketing, and up to exec and non-exec director level. I don't believe you truly know what a CEO does until you know what all of their people underneath them do. So yeah, we give the same amount of effort, energy, and time to those not low level, but low paying roles as deemed in
Mm.
recruitment terms, in terms of kind of fees, because I think they're the backbone of the industry, and it's in fact what people need the most, is the technical hands-on roles, which yeah, those exec level recruiters don't seem to want to work. And yeah, I think that's probably one of our biggest USPs, that we are for you, whatever you need, we will deliver on, kind of thing, and make sure that we can do as good a job.
And I like that. And I also like what you said to me about how your psychology degree comes. This is where I think this is your own personal USP, because the psychology side of things, even though it's a different, it's not, you're not working in psychology, but you're working in with people, and that's what you've just said, isn't it? You are a real people person. How would you say that? And because I'm not going to regurgitate what you said to me before we started recording, but what would you say the fit for from your psychology background is in what you're doing?
Yeah, definitely. And I actually haven't reflected on that. You just do it inherently, don't you? It's just the way that you are day to day. And I don't think it is until like you reflect on things like doing a podcast like this that you do realize how much you do it. But I think the psychology has told me maybe like the art of mirroring kind of thing. So if, for example, you reach out to a client or a candidate and they reply to you with a one-word email, there's no use replying to them with a paragraph, because that's not their communication style. If you're on the phone to a client and they're telling you about their family and their home life, it's a really good place for you to then share some of your insights and background and tell them a little bit about you. But if they're not, then that's kind of your sign. That's not how they want to work. So I think a huge part of my job is just initially is understanding the people that I'm working with, the hiring managers, the CEO, how they work and how they like to work, because then I'm able to understand how to speak to them. I understand what kind of people they want in their business, what people they are usually going for in their business, but I think maybe having a bit of diversity in terms of culture fit would probably be a good sign. So yeah, the psychology comes into it more than I know, I think. And it's really just about understanding those people. Usually if someone's not giving you what you want, there's blockers in the way, they're not open, it's usually because there's a reason for it, right? And I think there's easier ways to understand those reasons than just your usual recruitment process. I think it is about getting to know the people, and that's really what I do. A lot of the people that you've had on the podcast are clients of mine, and I go as far as to say friends now. And yeah, it's something that's hugely important to me. I always laugh. George is obviously the numbers guy. I couldn't tell you anything about the numbers of the business. All I know is the relationships that I have, and that's what I go off, the feeling of it. And yeah, I guess that is probably a lot from psychology.
Yeah, because being a people person isn't something everybody is. You could. It's funny because I kind of, I don't know whether I've said this. I love my anecdotes, as you know from our conversation before. It's a bit like our local, and I'm sorry, I don't think anybody's actually going to be listening from our local GP surgery, but our local GP surgery has got some people on on reception who shouldn't really be on reception. And I've kind of worked with NHS, with GP practices previously, for example, and you'd expect to see a people person on reception, for example, because that's what you need, isn't it? But not everybody who is put in a role or takes a role is actually that people person. I mean, we've got one, and she can be a right miserable old bag, but that's another story. But do you know what I mean? You've got to have that kind of, in order for you to do what you're doing, you've got to have that sort of that ability to speak and in fact, it's not just communicate.
Yeah.
In a really, really kind of friendly, encouraging, way, because
Yeah.
that's really important, isn't it?
Yeah, I think where recruiters fall down is actually they do too much speaking sometimes and not enough listening. And I think that's where it comes from. I think it's really important to actually hear what the problems are. And, if a role's been going on for ages, or there's a problematic process that something keeps falling out, there's a reason for that. And I think it's getting to the bottom of those things, which you can only do by listening. It's funny as well, you get given a job description, and then you'll have a call with the hiring manager, and they will be two completely different things. And I think unless you're listening to really what they're saying, you're never going to be able to move anything forward, because there's obviously a problem that is continuously happening. So yeah, for me, it's not about just that CV, it's not about that candidate, it's about the actual life cycle of the business, of what they need, what their issues are, what their bugbears are, and actually solving a problem so it doesn't continue, rather than just filling a role, which is again probably not how other recruitment companies maybe work. And I've probably lost a lot of business because I'm not there really quick on the phone ringing people, chase and roll. It's just not my way. People know I'm here, and if they would like to work with us, then they come to us. And yeah, my clients know, if I ever ring them, it's because there's a reason. There's something actually urgent happening. I'm not really just chasing for feedback or anything like that, which again probably isn't typical, but honesty seems to work.
But I like that because it's not just about matching the skills, is it? It's about, like you say, it's understanding people at a much deeper level than just that whole scratch the surface of, it's more, it's getting your blooming, your hands dirty and finding out about stuff and being interested, because that's the other thing, isn't it? It's about being interested in people.
Yeah, 100%. And obviously, because of having a business myself, I know how impactful my people are. My people are the heartbeat of the business. I rely on them so much, and I now then see how much the internals of the business matter to that CEO, to that hiring manager. And I think, it's more to do with actually the listening and the process of what they need, rather than just trying to fit a box. A project manager is a project manager. No, there's so much more to that. And actually, people don't know what they need until you actually, pull a few strings and really question them. I don't think you can question hiring managers and CEOs very well unless you've got a good enough relationship with them, because if it's just a surface level relationship, they're going to be like, who are you talking to, kind of thing. But I think it's the ability to do it in a really constructive way. And I sometimes talk myself out of roles. Sometimes people will come to me and say, I want a head of business development and it's this kind of salary. And I say to them, I actually don't think you need that. I think you actually probably just need a few juniors, because what you need is a lot of cold calling and a lot of business through the door. You don't need someone to manage what's not there. And I think, like I say, it probably isn't the usual way of recruitment, but it's the way that we've built the business, and it's something I'm really proud of.
But that's what kind of stood out when we were talking, when I was listening to you on that panel at the Global Women in EV Day. And actually, there was one thing you were talking about specifically, and it was about women applying for roles and how women differ very much. And I think I brought this up with the podcast with Lois last week, and how women will apply if they can fit 100% of that role, whereas chaps might do it slightly, not saying everybody, but guys might do it slightly different and maybe apply, they think they cover 35% sort of thing. That I found that really, really, really interesting.
Yeah.
Tell me a bit more about what your thoughts are, and how you've managed to get women to change their minds about roles in this kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely. And this is a huge topic, because everyone wants the same thing, right? We're all talking about the same thing, whether you're a man, a woman, in any kind of diversity. We all just want it to be more diverse and to be more of a level playing field. And I don't think there is an issue with what women are doing, or what hiring managers are doing, or what the companies are doing in terms of wanting that. What the issue is the process. We've got an inherent problem with the way that recruitment processes are run. They've been run like this for many years. Companies don't really change things that seem to be working. So the issue isn't actually getting more women into the sector or getting more women to get the job. The issue is that for every 10 CVs you see, 3 of them are women. And what I'm trying to get across to people and hiring managers is we want the best person for the job, right? Whether that is man, woman, it doesn't matter. But to have that a fair chance, we need the same amount of women being able to apply to a job as men. We need that split to be 50-50. And the only way we can do that is by changing the process. So the way that job descriptions are posted is very black and white. You need 5 years experience in this. You need to have, done all of these things. Women statistically will apply if they've done 100% of those things, where men will apply if they've done 60% or 30%. The statistics are crazy in terms of the difference. So I think it's about making sure that we're creating a process that allows the same amount of candidates to apply equally. So making sure that there's flexibility on the job description, making sure that the actual process is really well set out from the start. Women statistically like to know where their time is going to be spent, where their risk is, what they're actually doing. And if the process goes on for too long, or there's no end goal, or they're unsure, there's any uncertainty, that automatically opts women out statistically. So I think it's about changing the process so that we are getting more women to apply, to interview, and then that automatically will change the way in which women are kind of in the industry, just by doing simple changes. But it's a hard one to retrain, I suppose.
But you are doing it. I mean, have there been instances where you've actually been able to work with the hiring manager to kind of do that and make that process easier? And because like you say, and I said this to you before we start recording, didn't I? People don't like change. It's difficult, but bringing people along that journey and getting them to understand why change is important, and and kind of giving them the bigger picture rather than just sort of just dragging them along. It's different. Have you had any kind of success with these changes then?
Yeah, definitely. So, EVEREC are obviously a recruitment business, but we are a headhunting business through and through.
Mm.
So, we actually headhunt for talent from competitors, from the industry. So, we have over 100,000 connections on LinkedIn. We post a job and we may get over 200 applicants. So we
Mm.
know statistically from that how many women they are versus men. The way in which that we are implementing, we can't really affect the change on that side. The job description is a job description made by the company. So we, first of all, go through the job description and make sure that it is something that is more open and flexible and only putting things in there that you really need. You know, if you're listing a unicorn, that's what you're going to be searching for rather than kind
Yeah.
of first pool. So yeah, there's been roles specifically, you know, within the asset management side and traditional roles that are more male focused. There's a huge want from the client to say, is there anything that we can do to change this? So
Mm.
change the job description first of all, and then because we're a headhunting firm, we obviously headhunt, you know, we can see who we're actually sending messages to. So there's a huge effort to make sure that you're sending the same amount of messages to men as there are women. And the way in which you word those messages are very different. So for a woman, they want more information. They want to know what the job title is. They want to know what the progression is. They want to know things like their salary and where they are going to be interviewing for the first stage. Is it a Teams call? Is it a face-to-face? We've also got a lot more attraction when you say the hiring manager is interested in your profile. She wants to know. So
Mm.
it's kind of showing that there is visuals within the company where they can see themselves being as well and opening those doors. So when we're working with clients, it's a huge mix between, you know, the job description, making sure they're asking for what they actually need. It's our responsibility to reach out to women and change and make sure that they feel supported and safe throughout the whole process and that they're not wasting their own time. Um, and also the visibility of, you know, having women in those higher places makes women feel like they can automatically kind of step into a room. But yeah, like I say, it's for us not about, you know, about getting right people in the right places, but making sure that you're only doing that if there's a seat at the table for everyone through the process. Yeah.
And I was gonna ask you as well, because this has just popped into my head actually. Are you seeing more companies these days wanting staff to actually be in, say, like in the building now, rather than, you know, because that talking about the kind of women, and it's, in fact, it's not, it's people with specific requirements like families, you know, mums, dads, all of this kind of stuff. Not everybody wants to be in an office or in a building all the time, do they? You
Yeah.
know, are people kind of, are companies moving more towards getting everybody back behind a desk in a building, or kind of, are you seeing it sort of, right, it's still kind of as it was?
Yeah, no, there's been a huge change since COVID. I think everything went very much remote, and now there's been
Mm.
over the past year, there's been a huge influx of companies going back to maybe like that 3 day working arrangement. So having set days in the office where everyone's going to be, the team environment is there. We're the same, we're based in Manchester, we work from home on Fridays, but for me, I think it's very important to have people on site. They can learn from each other. There's that mentality around um, the growth piece, I think, and the community feel, and I think that is important in companies, and I do advocate for that. Where I think the change needs to come a little bit more is that flexibility. So if you do have a kid pick up, or you know you need to go to an appointment, I think the companies that are most successful within their hiring is probably those where it's very clear, you know, we have families ourselves, we're open to you doing these pickups, we're open to you starting a little bit later, finishing a little bit earlier. And I think that's where people value the most out of
Mm.
opportunities these days.
It's funny, you know, because you've also got me thinking. I read some stats, and I can't remember when it, how long ago it was. I don't think it was probably in the last 12 months, but it was about there had been somebody, and I have a feeling they were ex. I might be totally wrong, so don't jump down my throat, Pete, if I get this wrong. A feeling they were the ex CEO from Asda or somewhere like that, who'd said that that they had some statistics on the productivity of people in a business, and I think, I don't even know whether his stats were real, or whether he put, whether how he'd put them together, or whether it was just him thinking, this is what I want as in my business, because obviously, everybody who works remotely is pulling the wool over their, business's eyes, blah blah blah. And it kind of, it worried me, because I don't know whether you saw this, or whether you can remember seeing anything like this, but it did worry me, because of the fact that just because you had people going from completely in the office to remote, didn't mean that you would have people working less productively. There are people, and I know that they find it difficult to work from home. I get that. You can't always do it, especially if you've got people clattering around, or you're sharing a flat, or whatever. It's not always easy. But just because they weren't you're thinking that they're not productive while they're remote, or doesn't mean they're going to be not productive. It could be the company itself. That's what I'm saying, because actually, if you leave everybody to get on with it, and you don't give them any support or anything like that when they're in post, then there's always going to be somebody who will take the mickey.
Yeah.
But you've always got the others, and this is whether anybody's in an office or working at home or hybrid. There's always going to be somebody who's going to do that.
Yeah.
But you've also got on the other side those who will work their absolute butt off. So you can't. It was this. I don't know what your thoughts are. It was this tarring everybody with the same brush. It just got my gut, as my grandma would have said.
Yeah, I've not heard that in so long. I think there needs to be.
I'm old, love. It's because I'm old.
Okay, I'm gonna. Yeah, nice that. I think there needs to be a level of autonomy and trust. I think that's the backbone of any organisation. Autonomy, trust, and innocent until proven guilty. Unless someone's actually given you reason to think otherwise, I think you've just got to be supportive and trusting that they are doing their job. And obviously, if things come up, then you can put measurements in place to make sure that they are hitting KPIs or whatever they need to do that day, that it is proven. But yeah, I think the best companies that retain talent and get people on board are those who have trust, autonomy and flexibility, and set boundaries. I think it's really hard for people to know if they're doing a good job unless they know what they're meant to be doing. And it sounds so simple, but it's conversations we have every day. This person isn't performing. Have you told them what you need to see from them every day to be able to say that they've had a good day or a good week? Especially in jobs that aren't KPI driven. Some jobs are quite loose and free flowing, and I think unless people know what you expect of them and what your boundaries are and what is going to roll with you and what isn't, then you're both going to have an issue, because they're going to feel like they're underperforming, you're going to feel like they are, and maybe it's actually just a communication thing. So again, it comes back, I suppose, to that communication and psychology piece and listening to each other. Everyone works differently. You can't manage people all the same. Some people learn better from visual, so I think you need to get the overarching thing is you need to get to know each other individually, and be able to recognise if there's a communication issue, because typically that is all it is, in my experience.
Yeah, and like you said right at the beginning as well, about job descriptions as well. Sometimes if they don't know, if that company doesn't know who they want in the, sorry, not necessarily they know that they do know the who, but they don't necessarily know what the what is.
Yeah.
They bring somebody in and then they're not managed properly.
Mm-hmm.
because and like you said about boundaries, putting boundaries in place, so they bring somebody in who they think they need them to do this, but they don't tell them because the job description doesn't necessarily say what it was, and then actually it's kind of changed into this role, but they're not performing well. Actually, you've not managed them and you've not communicated it. and also the role that you brought them in for is something different to what they thought it was. So, you know, you've literally just left them, and I've seen that quite a lot
Yeah.
in different businesses, because I go in as a consultancy and things and kind of going, oh, okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, you don't, people don't see it from the internal because they're just there every day moving through the same kind of challenges, and it's bird's eye view is actually something that we tend to do a lot of. So it's not just, writing the job description and sending the CV. People come to us when they have either been through a merger and acquisition, or they are only 10 people big looking to fundraise, or they've got Series A, and we do everything from looking at the org chart now, looking at what the co-founder or founder is good at and what they really aren't good at, so we can make sure we actually fill that job first, even if it is something that they didn't originally, sales might be the most important part to grow the business, but actually if they're not very good at the finance, we need someone to take that off their plate because they're in the wrong swim lane, they're not doing something they're good at and they're wasted on it. So it's being able to consultatively say, this is actually probably what you need in the business, let me write the job description, we'll do a salary benchmark on it, we'll send you some CVs, we'll take that off your plate, and then you can focus on, growing the business. Because founders do, or CEOs or hiring managers do a lot, is they aren't actually doing their job description either, and that filters downstream, because then whatever they are meant to be doing is either getting left or with someone else that isn't in that skill set. And I think, again, you're just on this cycle, aren't you? You get up every day and you do the same thing, and it's not unless anyone actually says you're not actually meant to be doing that, that's someone else's role, and they're not getting what they need from you because you're doing that. It seems so obvious, but it's not.
People can't see it. Yeah, people can't always see it. But I like what you're saying as well, because what you're doing is you are bringing an element of trust, that your clients are trusting you, and you are getting, like I said earlier, you're getting into the nitty gritty of what their hearts. No, that's not right. I suppose it is in a way. It's what, yeah, especially if you're talking about a small company. What is it? What is it in their heart that they actually want? What do they want to achieve? What does their business look like in their eyes? Or even bigger companies. What is this business trying to do? So
Yeah.
you're doing that, and you're becoming that trusted partner, really, aren't you?
Yeah, I think it's getting to know them, and for them to be able to have a good moan at you most of the time, because that's when you actually get to know the real things, like, this is really annoying because of this, or I've been doing this today and this is stressful. People only open up to you when, ring them at 5 and how is your day been, and actually they're the most vital conversations for me, because they've said the same thing 3 times. Then I can say, look, you've said this a few times, I think that actually might be the problem, but unless it's not just a transactional relationship and we are actually on a real level, that's impossible to do. So yeah, the relationships in this space are something I hold so dear, and yeah, I think that's probably where the business has grown from, because we don't just look at a job online and be like, oh, I've got loads of CVs for that, can I send them? It's really getting to know the people in the places, and yeah, just helping solve a problem that usually, whatever their biggest bugbear is usually down to either them being too stretched or them not doing the job that they're meant to be doing. And I truly believe most issues in a business is the recruitment, or the people or the teams, not their individuals themselves, but a misalignment somehow. And yeah, that's probably the biggest. I could talk about it forever.
And it's funny, isn't it? Because what the person who set up the company, or the CEO, or whoever it was, set up the company, intended to do and intended for it to be like, isn't always cascaded down through the management. As in, it's a bit like Chinese whispers, isn't it? You know what I mean? It's kind of like, right, we've started it because of this. And then that person goes, we've started it because of this, and this. And then it just goes down, doesn't it? And it's kind of trying to keep, the reason why, management get put in with regards to relating to that CEO point of view, the aim is to take that stress and pressure off the CEO and put things in place, and all the processes and the people and stuff. But actually, when it starts getting diluted about what was wanted, trying to bring people back together, or bringing them putting them on the same page is really important, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And it's just, yeah, it tends to be the conversations that need to be had that haven't been realised that they need to be had. And, internal teams do such a good job, HR managers and the internal recruitment teams, but they aren't always in companies. If they're a startup or, a larger organization, even up to, 50 people sometimes don't actually have internal HR or internal recruitment teams. So that's where it tends to be the most impactful, I think, is, yeah, just giving everyone an oversight on what is the issues and how does that filter down. I think in our work, typically, it's not said that we like to work with HR managers or internal recruitment teams, but they're some of the best relationships I have because we're all working on the same thing together. They've seen the issues, I can talk about the issues, and then as a holistic approach, we'll be able to help and hire the right people or do the right changes. So, yeah, I really try to work coherently with the HR teams and the talent acquisition teams because they're the specialists. They've probably got actual degrees in HR or training. Coming from a recruitment perspective, you don't have that. You've just got the actual consultancy piece. So yeah, I think there's so much that you can do, but I generally believe it's just them conversations that you can have internally that'll make all the difference. Yeah, and I think as well, sorry, just while we're on this point, I think the processes are the biggest issue throughout. So the conversation and the process piece, the biggest conversation throughout. We definitely don't have a talent shortage. I'm sure you've seen,
Oh, I was going to ask you this question. Yeah, go on.
And go on, you ask me.
No, 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 no. Tell me. No, I want you to, because we hear this a lot, don't we?
Yeah, and I think it's a bit of I think people are starting to miss the reason that someone would have a talent partner. In a lot of people's minds or a lot of companies' minds, the reason you'd have a talent partner is because you can't find the talent yourself. So, but I don't think that's the case. You don't need talent partners these days to necessarily find CVs because there has been a lot of talent shortages and there is a lot of people that have been, made redundant, and we've seen some really tough things in the last 2 years. There's some amazing people out there. The issues are actually with the processes of recruitment internally. So I truly believe you could give me a CV, and if we had a really good process, from start to finish, you're going to review the CV within, 2 days. We're going to get an interview booked in with the next day with a final deemed 2 weeks later maximum, and we'll place that role. I think it's when things get taken out of context, elongated, processes run too long, you've got 3 people working on it, you've got the hiring manager, the CEO, the HR manager, all trying to give feedback, you need 3 face-to-faces. I think if you just had a real streamlined process, and the reason you need talent partners is so we can help you with the actual process that we need to put in place to secure the best people, because the people are out there, you're losing them because you're not acting quickly enough or you're not positioning it in the correct way. So yeah, it's not a case of needing talent partners because we need to do loads of headhunts, and which we do to find good people in specific roles, but it's more about training and enlightening people on what a good recruitment process looks like, and I think that's really missed a lot of the time.
So do you, just thinking about that, so because I think there, when people talk about shortages for various, especially kind of renewables and, sector and things like that, but are you seeing people who have got the skills? We were saying about earlier, you were saying, we talk about this for women, that they might not have all of the skills, but they've got a lot of the skills, but they're in a different sector. And theoretically, it's unrelated, but it's a bit like I said to you about my business improvement work. My business improvement work can be done in any sector because you can plonk me into different organisations and different sectors, and I can usually suss out, right, because there's a lot of commonality across businesses and across sectors. But are you seeing people moving sectors to come across to kind of the sectors that you're dealing with, for example?
Yeah, we do see that a lot. So, from telecoms, for example, that's really common from EV and solar into EV charging and, through battery storage and things like that are very common. But there's a lot of people in this industry out of work that do have the experience. So, unless you're actually looking for somebody out of the industry for a reason, so for example, if you have a role that is more of a project management office role and the way in which the automotive sector runs their projects team, very strict deadlines, really aggressive in terms of time periods, and you actually want someone from there, then we'll go out and do a headhunt specifically for that. But I think there's a lot of amazing people in this industry right now that have been in the industry for 3-4 years that are out of a role. So I think it's about looking after those essentially, as well as bringing talent in where it's needed for specific job roles, because we do see a lot of dilution, a lot of people moving around in the same spaces and same sectors, and sometimes you do need a little bit of fresh blood in there to diversify and bring new ideas and fresh ideas, but at the same time, I find it really challenging when people say we've got a shortage of skills. We do in like electrician and electrical work, technical work. We have so many electrical positions right now that need support, and people aren't picky about where they come from as long as they are an electrician and have done some kind of either commercial or domestic work. They can be trained up and be really, really effective. So that's kind of where we are seeing the skill shortages at the minute, is in that there's just not enough people with they just need more hands essentially to install these chargers and to kind of move things along. But yeah, for kind of like senior roles, and there's loads of people out there right now that are looking for roles. But people still need talent partners, because you could be the best captain on a ship in a sea full of fish, but unless you know how to get them fish onto the boat, you're never going to be a successful fisherman. And I don't think that people really know how to attract the talent and retain the talent, and that's where you need a specialist partner that actually can support with that.
No, I like that. I do like that. And actually, I was going to ask you about kind of like the electrical roles and kind of the skills shortage. I suppose I was thinking talent and skills being the same thing, but they're not, are they? Do you know what I mean? But yeah, I know, and I recognise the kind of the skills shortage. Um, I'm going to ask you one final question. I could talk to you for flipping ages, honestly. I really could. And we have already talked a lot.
No, been great.
So, what looking ahead, where would you like to see the talent landscape moving in the next few years? What would you
Yeah.
like to see happen? We talked process, so I'm assuming process has got to be part of that.
Yeah, a huge thing. I think all companies, if they've got issues with retaining, building, or attracting talent and feel like recruitment is a nightmare, it takes so long, we put so much time into it and people don't accept our offers, that is because of the process, because there isn't a shortage of talent. And I think the best clients that we have aren't the ones with the biggest budgets, but they're the ones that respect us and the relationship and the process. And I think I just advocate so heavily for people to find a really good talent partner and to put time into them as if you would a supplier. You would not ignore emails or tell people that, we have a deadline of Tuesday and then not come back to your manufacturer, because we just wouldn't do it. And we
Yeah.
are essentially your a partner. We are an external partner that helps grow and support the business. So I think as long as you have a good talent partner that you trust and respect, and that you stick to kind of the timelines and frames that have been set out, and of course salaries are in line with the benchmarks, I don't think there is an issue with recruitment. It's a very simple and easy fix. So I'd love to see more of that, ideally through me.
Of course.
Need a partner, a partner. But yeah, just find someone that you really align with, that you get on with, that feels like a part of your business and just slots in, that you can ring at 6:30 at night and just speak to your day about. Because once you have that, then your role gets easier, because you've got the people in the right places to do the right things, and you can focus on your job. The main reason people don't have time for recruitment is because they are short-staffed. So put time into recruiting the right people in the right places, and it all goes from there. But I think the priorities, of course, I understand priorities get in the way, but if you solve that priority, then everything else really does free up your life and your world. Yeah, I'm starting a podcast next month called Powered by People, and I'm going to dig into this so much more and just get people on the podcast in the spaces to talk about, you know, their vision, how they got to where they are, and what their thoughts are around recruitment and things as well, and just try and give some more tips and tricks, because there's people out there desperate for work, and there's people out there desperate for people. The only misalignment is the process, and yes. I just want to solve that.
That's perfect. Love that. I love that. What a brilliant place to kind of end on. And yeah, I look forward to seeing that, my darling. It's been really, really lovely chatting to you, learning about you and the way you tick, which is, you know, it's great to actually see the way that you know what you want to do is different, but it's good.
Yeah.
So I just want to say thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for all your support and all your lovely words. Yeah, it means so very much. So I have to have you on my podcast when it starts, because I'd love to actually hear about you. You talk about so many people and do so much with others, but yeah, we need to get your story out there. So it'll be nice to hear the favour.
Thank you very much. That's very kind of you. Oh, listen. So to everybody, I always say this, and we are coming to kind of like the end of the life of Electric Evolution, or at least kind of for now in a few episodes' time, as Abby knows. And yeah, but we're still around on social media, so please do connect with Abby. I'll have all of this in the show notes, and just like, subscribe, share, all of those wonderful things, because we've got 100 odd. When this comes out, you are going to be episode 187. So yeah, I've nearly spoken to 190 people nearly. So that's probably where we'll see where we'll stop. But yeah, thank you, darling. It's been absolutely wonderful. And to everybody watching and listening, I'm going to say, see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching Electric Evolution with Liz Allan. If you've enjoyed this episode, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. If you're a charge point operator, local authority or stakeholder in EV charging, I'd love to talk to you about our Charge Point Evolution framework. It's designed to help you create a seamless EV driver journey, boost utilisation and maximise your return on investment. Alternatively, if you know someone who'd be a great podcast guest or might be interested in sponsoring an episode, you can email me on liz@fullcircleci.co.uk. Thanks again for watching.